My mom was ignored in the school moms group chat, so I created a fake profile just to see what they were saying about her. She always tried to be nice, but her messages were left unread. Anyone want to help with the school fair? I can bring the cups. Nothing. One day, I saw her quietly crying while looking at her phone. I created a fake profile to understand why, and what I found were jokes, subtle digs, and a silent competition to look better than the others. But what they didn't know was that my mom was the only one actually making things happen. I never thought I'd end up spying on a bunch of middle-aged women, but here I am, with a fake Instagram profile, pretending to be a mom named Daniela R., with 2 kids and a passion for gluten-free baking, all because of one woman, my mom. Growing up, I never really noticed how hard she tried to fit in. She was just there, packing my lunch, sewing my costumes, volunteering for every single school event, always smiling, always the first to offer help. And the school moms? They were the polished, passive-aggressive type who wore matching scarves and spoke in that condescending tone that made everything sound like a compliment and a warning at the same time. At first, I thought she was imagining things. She'd ask me, "Do you think I'm bothering them?" Or maybe they didn't see my message, and I'd shrug it off. But then I started noticing her hesitating before sending anything to the group chat. I saw how her fingers hovered over the keyboard, how she'd wait, and nothing. No one ever responded. She'd type, "Anyone want to help with the school fair? I can bring the cups. I can arrive early to set up." Not even a thumbs up. Just silence. The turning point came one Tuesday night. I was coming downstairs for water, and I saw her in the living room, lights dimmed, her phone in her lap. Her eyes were wet. She wasn't sobbing, just sitting there quietly, trying not to make a sound. That's when I knew something was really wrong. So I created Daniela R. profile pic, an elegant brunette I found on Pinterest. Bio: mom of 2, plant-based living. PTA: followed a few moms from the group. Waited. By morning, 3 of them had followed me back. By that afternoon, I was in their close friends list. And that night, I finally saw what my mom wasn't seeing. Subtle, cruel things. Screenshots of group chats with comments like, "Guess who volunteered again? She's sweet, but exhausting. I swear she's trying to win PTA president without even running." And they'd laugh, react with emojis, add little jokes about her homemade snacks being aggressively healthy, or how she tries too hard. One mom even posted a blurry photo from last year's fair and wrote, "Guess who brought 200 biodegradable cups but forgot the napkins?" My mom had brought those cups. I felt sick, like actually dizzy. They weren't just ignoring her, they were treating her like a running joke. And yet, she still kept trying. What they didn't realize was, behind every successful event they bragged about, was her. She was the one making the phone calls, staying late, cleaning up when everyone else left. She never posted about it, never boasted. She just did it, because she cared. And now I was watching her heart break in real time, while these women turned her kindness into punchlines. I couldn't let it continue. So I started replying, as Daniela. And things got very interesting. As Daniela, I started small. A comment here, a reply there. Things like, "Oh, I totally agree, some people just don't know when to stop." Or, "LOL, that's classic trying too hard behavior." I hated myself for typing those things, but I needed to blend in. And it worked. They welcomed Daniela like she was one of them. Soon I was added to their unofficial WhatsApp group, the one where they said what they really thought. The group my mom had no idea existed. That's where the ugliness lived. One mom, Annabelle, posted a photo of the sign-up sheet for the school fair and wrote, "Take a wild guess who's already filled in 4 slots." Another replied, "Maybe if we ignore her long enough, she'll get the hint." And yet, my mom, still sweet, still hopeful, was downstairs making handmade signs for the same fair. I couldn't believe how different their world was from hers, from ours. So I started planting seeds. As Daniela, I messaged Annabelle privately. "You know, I think she just wants to feel useful. Maybe we're being a bit harsh?" Her reply, "Don't be fooled. It's all for attention. She wants to be the perfect mom." That's when I realized it wasn't just cruelty. It was jealousy. They didn't ignore my mom because she was annoying. They ignored her because she reminded them of everything they weren't doing. While they posed for pictures, she was organizing tables. While they complained about gluten, she was baking for kids with allergies. She never bragged, but her presence alone made them look lazy. And that, apparently, was unforgivable. So I changed tactics. I started boosting my mom. In the chat, I'd say, Honestly, it's kind of amazing how much she does. Makes the rest of us look bad, lol. Maybe we should be helping more instead of gossiping. At first, they resisted, said I was being too sensitive, but cracks were starting to show. One mom left a heart emoji under a photo my mom posted. Another replied to her message in the official group for the first time in months. My mom smiled that day. Just a little, and that was enough to keep me going. I created a second fake profile. This one, Laura G. A quieter mom type, just to nudge the others. I had Laura post things like, "Does anyone know who made those lovely signs for the fair? They're beautiful." And Daniela would reply, "Pretty sure it was Clara's mom. She's amazing." Clara is me, which made Clara's mom my mom. Suddenly people were noticing her, liking her messages, asking her for tips. She didn't understand why the shift, but I saw her standing straighter, humming while she cooked. She thought they were finally seeing her, and for a while, it felt like they were. Until one night, someone posted something that changed everything. Annabelle sent a screenshot of a DM she'd received from Daniela. My fake Daniela. Somehow, she had found me out. My heart stopped when I saw the screenshot. It was my own message, word for word, sent from Daniela's account to Annabelle just days earlier. I had been too confident, too casual. I'd said something like, "Maybe it's time we give Clara's mom a break. She's doing more than anyone." And now there it was in the group chat, exposed, with the caption, "Anyone know who this is? Daniela gives me weird vibes." The responses were instant. "Wait, who is she? She's not on the PTA roster. Does anyone actually know her in real life?" Panic kicked in. I rushed to delete the account, but it was too late. The seed of doubt had been planted, and worse, Daniela had gone from trusted ally to suspicious outsider in a matter of minutes. That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts raced with what-ifs. What if they traced it back to me? What if my mom found out? What if, in trying to protect her, I just made things worse? But the real blow came the next afternoon. I walked into the kitchen and found my mom staring at her phone again. This time her face was different. Not sad, just confused. She looked up and said, "Did something happen in the mom's group?" I froze. "What do you mean?" She showed me her screen. The message read, "Clara's mom, can we talk privately? There's been some confusion and your name came up." It was from Annabelle. I played dumb, weird. Maybe it's about the fair, but I knew. They were closing in. I wanted to confess right then, but I couldn't. She looked too hopeful. Like maybe, just maybe, she was finally being included, so I waited. Listened through her door as she took the call that night. Heard her nervous laughter, the little gasps of surprise, the awkward silences, then the sound of her pacing. When she came out, her face was unreadable. She said only one thing. "Someone's pretending to be another mom, and they've been defending me." I couldn't meet her eyes. She didn't accuse. She didn't even seem angry, just tired. More tired than I'd ever seen her. The next morning, she left early. Didn't say where she was going. Didn't respond to my texts. All day, my stomach twisted into knots. When she finally came home, her eyes were red. She didn't speak. Just walked past me and into her room, closing the door behind her. I had failed. Whatever respect the other moms were starting to show her, it was gone now, tainted by the idea that she had sent someone to speak for her, that she'd manipulated them. And worst of all, she had no idea it was me. I had done this. Out of love, yes, but still. I had lied, manipulated, and watched her crumble all over again. And then, 2 days later, something happened that flipped everything upside down. My mom received an email from the school's parent board. She had been nominated for Volunteer of the Year. Not by one person, by 7. When she read the email, she didn't believe it at first. She sat at the kitchen table, blinking at the screen, mouthing the words to herself like they might disappear if she said them out loud. 7 people? She whispered. Then she looked at me. Really looked at me, and I felt something shift. Suspicion? Gratitude? I couldn't tell. But she didn't ask any questions. She just stood up quietly and said, "I guess I'll have to attend the meeting next week." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she held the teacup. I wanted to be happy for her. I wanted to believe this was it, the recognition she'd long deserved. But I knew those women. I'd read their messages. They didn't change overnight. So I logged into Laura G's profile, the the one fake account still active, and scrolled. Nothing. No jokes, no snide comments. In fact, barely any messages at all. The chat was quiet. Almost too quiet. Then, at 10:43 that night, Annabelle posted, "Let's all try to be more mindful. This group wasn't meant for gossip," followed by a link to a school policy on inclusive community standards. And just like that, silence again. I should have felt relief. But all I felt was unease. They weren't apologizing. They weren't confronting what had happened. They were covering it, cleaning their tracks, pretending nothing happened. And by nominating my mom, they could erase their behavior without ever having to say sorry. I watched her over the next few days. She prepared a short speech just in case. She ironed her nicest blouse. She even practiced smiling in the mirror, like she didn't quite remember how. She was cautious, like someone trying to walk through a room full of broken glass barefoot. Then the day of the meeting came. She asked me if I wanted to come with her. I said yes. The auditorium was mostly empty when we arrived, but slowly the usual moms filtered in, perfumed, polished, perfect. Some of them nodded politely. One even smiled, not warmly, just politely. When my mom's name was called, I held my breath. She stood up, walked to the front, and accepted the small plaque. The applause was brief, but real. No one cheered. But no one mocked her either, and for her, that was enough. She said a few quiet words about community and kindness.
She didn't mention the group chat. She didn't mention the fake accounts. She didn't mention the months of humiliation. She just smiled and said thank you. But as we were leaving, something strange happened. A woman I didn't recognize, tall, older, with short silver hair, stopped us in the hallway. She looked directly at my mom and said, "I've seen what they've done. You deserve more than this little plaque." Then she turned to me. "And you stirred the pot, didn't you?" I froze. She didn't wait for an answer. She just smiled, sharp and knowing. Good. Sometimes that's the only way to clean out rot. Then she walked away. I looked at my mom. She hadn't heard the last part. She was too distracted, staring at her award, her eyes shining. But I couldn't stop thinking about that woman. Who was she? And how did she know? I didn't see the silver-haired woman again. Not at the school, not online, not even mentioned in the group chat. It was like she had appeared out of nowhere, delivered her cryptic message, and vanished. But something about her tone, her confidence, stuck with me. She knew. And she wasn't just talking about the fake profiles. She was talking about something deeper, something rotten. So I did what I shouldn't have done. I used Laura G one last time. I messaged a quiet mom from the chat, Lucille, someone who rarely posted but had liked a lot of the nastier messages in the past, the kind of follower who watches more than she speaks. I wrote, "Did you see what that woman said to Clara's mom in the hallway?" Lucille replied fast. "Which one?" "The silver-haired one," I typed. "After the meeting." She paused. Then, "You mean Eleanor?" Eleanor. No last name, no details. Just that, Eleanor. "She's not part of the group anymore," Lucille added. "Why?" I asked. She didn't play along. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I started digging. School newsletters, PTA archives, community bulletins. I finally found an old photo from 2 years ago, a bake sale. There she was, Eleanor, standing next to Annabelle and 2 other moms, holding a tray of pastries, smiling. And then, nothing. No further mention. Like she'd been scrubbed out. I printed the photo and left it on the kitchen table. When my mom saw it, she froze. "Where did you get this?" "She talked to you, after the meeting." She sat down slowly, studying the picture. "She was the one who started the Healthy Lunches program," she said softly. "Everyone loved it. Until she made the mistake of speaking out." "About what?" She hesitated. "They mocked one of the new moms, behind her back. Eleanor called them out. The next week, they stopped responding to her messages, pretended not to see her at drop-off. She disappeared after that, and now she was back. Watching, maybe warning. It hit me then. This wasn't just about my mom. It was a pattern, a system. A quiet, brutal way to maintain control. Include, then isolate. Praise, then punish. All while smiling for the school newsletter. I looked at my mom. She didn't know everything I'd done, but she knew enough now to see what had been going on around her, and she was done being quiet. That week, she submitted a proposal to the school board, a new policy to create an independent oversight committee for the PTA, one that included non-PTA parents and staff observers, a way to break the cycle.
The vote would happen in 2 weeks. And suddenly the group chat lit up again, this time with panic. Annabelle wrote, "Has anyone seen what Clara's mom is trying to pull? She's acting like she owns the place. Someone needs to remind her she's just a volunteer." But this time, there were replies. "Honestly, maybe it's time for a change. She's not wrong. I'd vote for her over Annabelle any day." And just like that, the tide began to turn. The days leading up to the vote were tense. Every time my mom's phone buzzed, she'd flinch slightly. Not from fear, she wasn't scared anymore, but from the constant tension of being noticed. After so long being invisible, now every word she said, every step she took, felt like it was under surveillance. And still, she kept going. She printed copies of her proposal, spoke to teachers, janitors, cafeteria workers, people no one ever invited into meetings, but who saw everything. She wasn't campaigning. She was listening. Meanwhile, the group chat turned into a battlefield. Annabelle tried to play it smart. She didn't attack directly. Instead, she started posting concerned messages like, "Just wondering if all these changes are really necessary. Things have been working fine for years." But others weren't so subtle. "Sounds like someone's trying to take control. Too much. Too fast. She wants to be queen of the school." My mom never responded. She stayed quiet in the group. But then, on a Thursday morning, she received a private message from Lucille. It simply read, "They're planning something. Be careful." I watched her read it, her face still, calm. She handed me the phone and said, "I think they're going to try to humiliate me before the vote." She wasn't wrong. That afternoon, someone, probably Annabelle, leaked a screenshot of an old message, one where my mom had gently asked if a school trip could include gluten-free options. They twisted it. Claimed she was trying to control what everyone's children eat, that she was forcing her lifestyle on others. It was absurd. But the chat exploded. That's so typical of her. I knew she had an agenda. She's been planning this from the start. And then, something unexpected happened. Eleanor returned. Out of nowhere, she reappeared in the chat with a simple message. I was silenced for saying less than this. Clara's mom is trying to make things better. And deep down, you all know it. No emojis, no tags, just that. The room went silent. Then slowly, one by one, reactions began to shift. One mom commented, "I've been thinking the same. Maybe we should hear her out." Another added, "It's true. She's done more for this school than anyone here." Annabelle tried to claw it back. "Let's not forget she had someone pretending to be another mom to spy on us." That one landed hard, because it was true, and my stomach dropped. But then, another mom replied, maybe she had to. If we made her feel that unsafe, maybe that says more about us than her. I could see my mom reading the screen. Her lips pressed tightly, her eyes glistening but dry. She looked at me and said, "I didn't want to win like this. I just wanted it to stop." And for the first time in weeks, I told her the truth. I made the profiles. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me. Then she asked softly, "Why?" I told her everything, the jokes, the screenshots, her crying in the living room, the fake accounts, the woman in the hallway. Every lie I told, every truth I uncovered. When I finished, she just nodded, slowly, silently, and whispered, "Thank you." Then she stood up, walked to her laptop, and began writing something. It was a message. To the group. Her fingers moved with a quiet fury. No hesitation. No pauses. When she finished typing, she didn't ask me to read it. She just hit send. And in less than 10 seconds, the group chat went dead silent. Her message said, "I've read every comment. I've seen every screenshot. I know about the jokes, the nicknames, the eye rolls behind my back. I never wanted to be anyone's favorite. I just wanted to help, because I believed that if I gave enough, if I tried hard enough, maybe one day I'd be seen as part of this community. I know someone created fake accounts to defend me. I didn't ask for that. But I understand why they did it. Maybe the question shouldn't be who did it, but why they felt they had to. I'm not angry. I'm just tired. Tired of smiling at people who won't smile back. Tired of working quietly while others use my silence to their advantage. So here's the truth. If you don't want me here, just say it. But I won't disappear quietly like Eleanor. Not anymore. No emojis, no hashtags, no passive-aggressive tone, just truth. I sat across from her, watching her exhale, as if years of quiet hurt had finally left her chest. For a long time, no one replied. Then Lucille sent a single word, respect. Followed by another mom, same. Then a third. I had no idea, I'm sorry. Even Annabelle wrote back. Not an apology, not really, but something close to surrender. We all got caught up in the wrong energy. That's on us. And just like that, the room shifted. Not dramatically, not with fireworks or applause, but with something quieter and more permanent, acknowledgement. That night, my mom didn't cry. She didn't smile either. She just sat at the table, sipping tea, her eyes distant. I don't think I need to be liked anymore, she said. And I realized maybe she never really did. Maybe she just wanted space to be, without being mocked, ignored, or erased. 2 days later, the school board met. The vote passed. Her proposal for oversight, transparency, and rotating leadership would become part of the school's PTA charter starting next semester. Some called it dramatic. Others said it was long overdue, but none of them could deny who made it happen. My mom, Clara's mom, the woman they used to leave on red. And for the first time in a long time, she walked through the school halls not just seen, but respected. But the story wasn't over, because one morning, a plain white envelope arrived in our mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single photo of my mom, standing alone at last year's school fair. On the back, written in delicate handwriting, I never forgot what they did to me. Now they'll never forget what you did. E. Eleanor. She was still watching. I read the message on the back of the photo at least 10 times. There was nothing else inside the envelope. No date, no explanation. Just the photo. My mom, in the middle of folding chairs, surrounded by decorations she probably put up herself, completely alone. And yet, she looked strong in it. Tired, yes, but proud. I handed the photo to her. When she saw Eleanor's handwriting, she closed her eyes for a moment. Then, very softly, she said, "She was always braver than the rest of us." I wanted to ask more, but I sensed it wasn't the time. Instead, I kept the photo in my drawer, behind my notebooks. I couldn't explain why, but something about it felt important, like a reminder or a warning. In the weeks that followed, things shifted subtly. The group chat didn't go back to normal, at least not their old version of normal. The tone changed. There were more thank yous, more people offering to help instead of assuming someone else would. My mom didn't become their new leader or their best friend, but she became something else, impossible to ignore. And with that came new problems. Annabelle didn't go away. She got quiet, calculating. She posted less, smiled more in person, and tried to reclaim her spot through charm instead of snark. I think she's just regrouping, I told my mom. She nodded. She always played the long game. Then came the invitation. A printed envelope, fancier than anything I'd seen from them before, hand-delivered. Inside, a formal invite to the annual Mother's Charity Gala, hosted by Annabelle Martin and friends. My mom read it twice, then set it aside. She didn't say anything, but I saw her fingers tense slightly on the paper. I asked, "Are you going?" She hesitated. Should I? I didn't know what to say. It felt like a trap, a peace offering wrapped in silk and poison. The kind of event where forgiveness is expected but never offered, where smiles stretch just wide enough to cover sharp teeth. But deep down, I knew she wanted to go. Not for the glamour. Not even for the recognition. She wanted to face them. So she did. The night of the gala, she wore a deep navy dress, simple, elegant. She didn't wear much makeup, no designer heels. She looked exactly like herself, only stronger. When she walked into the hall, heads turned. People noticed, not because she was loud or flashy, but because she wasn't hiding anymore. Annabelle greeted her with a hug that lingered half a second too long and said, "So glad you could make it." My mom smiled and answered, "I wouldn't have missed it. I stayed outside, in the car. I didn't need to be in the room. I just wanted her to know I was close." She stayed inside for 2 hours. When she came back, she looked free. "I think," she said, closing the door, "that was the last time I'll ever have to prove myself to them." I thought that was the end. But the next morning, another envelope arrived, no return address. Inside, a second photo. This time it was Eleanor, standing at the same charity gala 2 years earlier, alone, and written on the back, "I walked out that night and never returned. You walked in and changed everything. E." That second photo hit differently. Eleanor wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking slightly off to the side, like she had just decided right then and there that she was done, not defeated, just finished. The kind of quiet exit that most people miss, until years later, they realize something's missing. And now here we were, years later, and Eleanor was watching again. That night, I asked my mom directly, "Do you know why she left? I mean, really left?" She was silent for a while. Then she said something I'd never forget. She didn't leave because they were mean. She left because no one stood up for her, not even me. I stared at her. I was afraid, she continued. Afraid that if I defended her, they'd turn on me next, so I stayed quiet. And that silence haunted me more than anything they ever said. That's when I understood. This wasn't just about redemption. It was about atonement. My mom wasn't fighting for a seat at the table anymore. She was trying to make sure the next woman who walked into that room didn't get devoured. And suddenly, Eleanor's letters, her quiet, ghost-like appearances, made sense. She wasn't trying to drag my mom into the past. She was witnessing the correction of it. In the following weeks, small but powerful changes began to ripple through the school community. A younger mom, Sophia, who had just moved from Lisbon and barely spoke English, was invited to join the planning committee for the holiday fundraiser. That never would have happened before. An older dad with mobility issues was asked to help organize the school library, not because of his condition, but because he used to be a librarian. Again, never would have happened before. And the group chat? It still existed, but its tone was different. No more screenshots, no more whispered jokes, just real coordination, real effort. It was like someone had opened a window and let fresh air in. Annabelle didn't resist openly, but she began to pull away, subtly, showing up later, speaking less, smiling too much, like she was biding her time or deciding whether to reclaim her throne or abandon the court altogether. I kept wondering, would she strike again? Or had she finally realized the rules had changed? Then, one Friday afternoon, I saw her talking to my mom outside the school gates. From a distance, it looked civil, maybe even warm. But when my mom got in the car, her expression told a different story. She said she admired me, she murmured, almost amused, then asked if I'd consider running for PTA president next year. I blinked. And? She looked out the window, thoughtful. I said no. Why? She turned to me, smiling. Because I don't need a title. They already listen. That night, for the first time in a long time, we ate dinner with music playing. No phones, no tension, just laughter, peace. But I knew it wouldn't last forever, because the next morning a third envelope arrived. No name, no stamp, just one line typed neatly on the paper inside. She's not done, and neither am I. E. I stared at the note for a long time. It was just one sentence, but it felt like a thunderclap. She's not done, and neither am I. E. I handed it to my mom without a word. She read it once, then again, and calmly folded the paper in half. She didn't look surprised, just ready. What do you think she means? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Then finally she said, I think Eleanor's warning me, and not just about Annabelle, because things had changed, but only on the surface. The roots were still there, and Eleanor had lived this already. She knew how quickly things could turn, how power didn't fade. It just rebranded itself. So we watched, waited, and sure enough, within a week, it started. Annabelle didn't attack directly. She was too clever for that now. Instead, she began planting doubt in quieter ways, subtle comments at school pickup. It's nice that Clara's mom wants to be involved. I just hope it's not overwhelming for her. Or at PTA meetings. Maybe we should let someone less emotionally involved handle this task. And she smiled the whole time, but the message was clear. My mom wasn't stable. She was too intense, too involved, too dangerous, and for some it worked. The tone shifted again. Not a full reversal, but enough to sting. People responded to her messages a little slower, smiled a little tighter. Some even began to say things like, I'm just trying to stay neutral, or maybe there's more to the story than we know. They had forgotten so quickly. Or maybe they wanted to forget, because remembering meant admitting they had been part of it, that they had enabled it, that they had stood by. And now? Now they were choosing comfort over truth all over again. I felt rage building in my chest. I should expose her, I said one night. Tell everyone what she said behind their backs, show the screenshots. But my mom shook her head. No, she said. That would only make me look vindictive. And that's exactly what she wants. Then what do we do? She looked at me with quiet fire. We stay consistent. We keep doing the right thing. And we make sure they see the difference between her and me without a single lie. It sounded noble. But I knew how this worked. People didn't always choose truth. They chose narratives. And Annabelle was a master at controlling the narrative. Then one evening, just before dinner, we found another envelope. This one wasn't left at the door. It was in my mom's car, on the driver's seat. Inside, a photo of Eleanor. But this time, she wasn't alone. She was standing next to my mom. From 4 years ago, both of them smiling, unaware the picture had been taken, and underneath it, scribbled in pen, "She started the fire. You just picked up the match." My mom paled. This photo, I didn't even know it existed. Neither did I. And suddenly, I understood. This wasn't just about Eleanor watching us. It was about Eleanor remembering something my mom had forgotten, or maybe something she had chosen not to remember. And if that was true, what else was buried in the past? The photo haunted me. Not because of what was in it, but because of what it suggested. There was more to the story. A deeper layer, buried under years of silence, politeness, and carefully chosen forgetfulness. I sat across from my mom as she stared at it. "Do you remember this day?" I asked. She ran her thumb slowly along the edge of the photo. "I remember the event," she said, "but not the photo." There was something guarded in her voice, like she was sifting through pieces of a puzzle she had once thrown away. I pushed gently. "What happened with you and Eleanor, really?" For a long time, she said nothing. Then she looked up at me with a strange mix of guilt and clarity. "She trusted me," she began. "That's where it started. She trusted me to stand by her when she confronted Annabelle the first time." I didn't breathe. "And you didn't?" She swallowed hard. "No. I told her I agreed with her, in private. But when it came time to speak up at the meeting, I stayed silent, and afterwards, I distanced myself. I told myself I had to protect you, that if I got dragged into the drama, you'd suffer too." Her voice cracked. "But the truth is, I was a coward. I didn't know what to say. I had spent the last few months watching my mother become someone powerful, someone I admired fiercely, and now she was telling me the foundation of that strength had been built on a betrayal. I thought I could make up for it," she continued, "that if I just worked harder, did more, was better, maybe I could forget. Maybe she would too. But Eleanor hadn't forgotten, and now she was making sure I wouldn't either." I looked at the note again. "She started the fire. You just picked up the match." "Do you think she's angry at you?" I asked. "No," my mom said. "I think she's making sure I don't run from this again." The next morning, she did something I didn't expect. She emailed Eleanor, not as a message of apology, not asking for forgiveness. She wrote, "I remember now. You were right. I should have stood by you. I won't stay silent again." She never got a reply. But something shifted in her after that. At the next PTA meeting, when Annabelle made a harmless joke about oversensitive moms, my mom didn't smile. She leaned forward and said clearly, "You know exactly what you're doing, and we're not playing that game anymore." The room went still. No one laughed, not even Annabelle. And afterwards, something even stranger happened. One of the moms who had always been neutral, quiet, agreeable on the sidelines, walked up to my mom and said, "Thank you for saying it. I've wanted to for years." Her name was Greta. She used to be in Eleanor's corner too, until she wasn't, and suddenly I saw it. There were others. Like my mom, like Greta. People who had once been brave until it got too uncomfortable, too risky, and now? They were ready to stop hiding. One by one, they were remembering who they had been before the silence. The fire Eleanor started hadn't burned out. It was spreading, but with it came something dangerous. Because the more people remembered, the more truths surfaced. And the next truth? It would shatter the group completely. The next truth came from the least expected person, Lucille. The same Lucille who had once liked every cruel message, who rarely spoke, rarely chose sides, who had always been present but never visible. She messaged my mom privately, asking to meet. They sat at the park near the school early in the morning before anyone else arrived. I watched from a distance, sitting on a bench, pretending to scroll on my phone. Lucille looked nervous, but determined. When my mom came back, she didn't say anything at first. Then she sat beside me and whispered, "Eleanor didn't just leave. She was forced out. I turned to her, stunned. What do you mean? She looked out at the empty playground, her voice low. Lucille said there was a vote. A fake one. A staged PTA vote to remove problematic members. They pretended it was democratic, but the outcome was already decided. Eleanor was ambushed. No warning, no defense. It hit me like a punch. And you didn't know? I thought she left on her own, my mom said. That she got tired, that she walked away. But Eleanor didn't walk away. She was pushed, with precision, with cruelty, and with the silent approval of every mom who sat in that room and said nothing, including mine. My heart twisted. Why didn't Lucille say anything before? My mom hesitated. Because she voted against Eleanor. I stared at her. Why is she telling you this now? Because she's tired of the game. Because she wants to make it right. The fire Eleanor started wasn't just revealing injustice. It was revealing guilt. Lucille gave us more than just the truth. She gave us the paper trail, old emails, meeting notes, even the draft of the message Annabelle had written to thank Eleanor for her service after the removal. Everything was calculated, sterile, deceptive, and now we had proof. I didn't ask what my mom planned to do with it. I knew. The next PTA meeting was packed, more than usual. Word had spread, quietly but widely. Something was coming. No one knew what. But they showed up, even the ones who never did. Annabelle stood at the front, as always, acting composed, performing. But when my mom took the floor, she didn't look at her. She looked at the rest of them. I know many of you were here when Eleanor left, she began. I know some of you remember how it happened, and some of you don't. She paused. But now we all have the chance to remember together, and she handed out printed copies of the emails, of the fake vote, of the messages that confirmed what had always been denied. Gasps, whispers, shifting in seats. Annabelle didn't speak. Her face didn't move, but I saw it. The flicker in her eyes. Fear. I'm not here to punish anyone, my mom said. But I think it's time we stop pretending this group was ever about fairness or inclusion. We can either keep protecting what's broken, or we can rebuild. The room was silent. Then Greta stood up. I was there, she said, and I stayed quiet, but not anymore. She's right. Then Lucille. Me too. I voted against Eleanor. I regret it every day, and just like that, it broke. The silence, the complicity, the illusion. Annabelle tried to speak then. Something about misunderstanding, confusion, old wounds, but no one was listening. Her power had never been about honesty. It had been about control. And now, without fear behind her words, she was just another mom with nothing left to say. My mom stepped down from the front and returned to her seat, and for the first time ever, the room clapped, not out of obligation, but out of relief, because someone had finally said what needed to be said, but just when I thought it was over. Another envelope arrived. This time addressed to me. It was the first time an envelope had my name on it, not to Clara's mom. Not left anonymously on the windshield. This one was mine. No stamp, no return address. Just my name written in clean, looping cursive, Clara. I held it in my hands longer than I should have. The paper was thick, heavy, like it wanted to be opened slowly. Inside, there was no photo this time, just a single sheet of paper. Typed. You wanted to protect her. You created fake profiles, watched them lie, manipulated the liars, and yes, some of what you did was dishonest, but it also saved her. Don't let anyone rewrite that part. She needed a witness. And you chose to see. What your mother doesn't know is this. The day she stayed silent at my final meeting, I saw you watching her. You were young, but not too young. You saw her look away. You saw me cry in the hallway, and something in you broke that day. That break is what made you brave later. Don't forget that, Clara. You come from a long line of women who were taught to shrink, but you were born to take up space. I didn't realize I was crying until my hand smudged the ink. I tried to remember that moment she mentioned, Eleanor crying in the hallway, my mother's silence. My eyes locking onto something I didn't fully understand back then. I remembered shadows, a glimpse of emotion I wasn't old enough to name, and the sharp, confusing ache in my chest that stayed with me long after the school bell rang. She was right. Something did break that day, but maybe that break was a beginning. I showed the letter to my mom. She read it quietly, tears running down her cheeks in silence. Then she folded it neatly and tucked it into her journal, saying only, "She's still teaching us." That night, we didn't talk much, but there was a quiet peace between us, like the space that had always existed, filled with unspoken guilt, protection, pain, had finally been cleared. And for the first time, I saw her not just as my mom, but as a woman who had made mistakes and kept walking. The next morning, something incredible happened. The school principal sent out a community-wide message announcing the launch of a new mentorship program. It would be named after someone who had championed inclusion, integrity, and quiet courage. The Eleanor Brand Mentorship Initiative. I looked at my mom. She looked at me. Neither of us smiled right away. Because this wasn't about celebration, it was about correction. Eleanor would never come back through the school gates, but her name would. And this time, no one could erase it. But as we stood there in silence, I couldn't shake one thought. If Eleanor had planned all this from the shadows, what else had she set in motion? A week passed. The school buzzed with talk about the new mentorship program. Teachers seemed lighter, parents curious, even students started asking, who was Eleanor Brand? The answer varied depending on who you asked. To some, she was the mom who brought fruit instead of cake. To others, she was the woman who disappeared without a fight. But to me, and now to my mom, she was the architect of a quiet revolution, and apparently, her plans weren't done. Because then came the binder. Delivered in a brown paper package, no note this time. Just a single label on the front, to be continued. Inside were pages of notes, detailed, methodical, documenting everything from PTA voting procedures to anonymous testimonials from other parents. I flipped through it in awe. Eleanor had been documenting the school's underbelly for years, and at the very end of the binder was a list, handwritten, mothers who stayed silent, mothers who tried to speak, mothers who still can. Next to each name was a date, some from the past, some from the coming weeks, meetings, events, gatherings. My mom's name was on the third list, next to a date that hadn't happened yet, a school-wide assembly, open forum, 2 weeks away. Eleanor had written, in bold letters beneath it, "Speak. You won't be alone this time." When I showed it to my mom, she closed the binder carefully, like it was sacred. She was building something bigger than herself, she whispered. It wasn't just about our school. It was about every place where women like Eleanor were pushed out, quietly erased, turned into cautionary tales instead of remembered voices. And now, with everything exposed, there was one last thing to do: speak where Eleanor couldn't. That night, I helped my mom prepare her speech. She didn't want to make it about Annabelle, or even about herself. She wanted to talk about the pattern, about how communities pretend to be supportive, but secretly punish the ones who care too much, about how silence isn't always neutral, it's a weapon. And about how sometimes, to fix something broken, someone has to be willing to stand in the middle of the wreckage and say, "This ends with me." The night before the assembly, she placed the binder beside her bag, and then she handed me a letter. Folded, sealed. "Just in case," she said. "In case of what?" "In case I forget how far I've come." The next day would change everything. And I didn't know what she'd say once she stood in front of everyone, but I knew this. Eleanor's fire didn't die. It just needed someone brave enough to carry the flame. The auditorium was full. Not just full, overflowing. Parents, teachers, staff. People standing against the walls, sitting on the steps, whispering to each other. It wasn't just a school assembly. It was a reckoning. When my mom stepped up to the podium, there was a strange silence. Not tense, not skeptical, just expectant. Like the whole room had been holding its breath for months, and no one quite knew what would happen when they finally exhaled. She looked calm, but I could see it, her hands gripping the edge of the podium just a little too tightly, her eyes scanning the room, pausing when they landed on Annabelle. Then she began, not with accusations, not with names, but with a story. "Years ago, I joined this school community full of hope. I wanted to help, to be useful, to belong. But somewhere along the way, I learned that belonging came with unspoken rules. Stay quiet. Don't ask too many questions. Never stand out too much. I followed those rules for a long time, until I saw someone else get pushed out for breaking them. Her name was Eleanor Brand. Some of you remember her. Some of you have tried to forget her. She was brave, and we failed her." Murmurs spread through the room. Annabelle shifted in her seat, but didn't speak. My mom continued. I stayed silent when I should have spoken. I watched her leave and told myself it wasn't my responsibility. But silence has a cost. It protects the wrong people and punishes the right ones. And I see now that communities aren't built by the loudest voices. They're built by the ones who refuse to look away. She paused, then looked up, directly at the crowd. Some of you heard her. Some of you watched. I did both, but today I speak. Not just for Eleanor, not just for myself, but for anyone who's ever been pushed aside for caring too much, speaking too loud, or not fitting in just right. The applause started slow, hesitant, then it grew, and didn't stop. Some people cried, some nodded silently, a few looked down, ashamed, but no one laughed, no one scoffed, not this time. After the assembly, people came up to her, shaking her hand, thanking her, hugging her, telling her about their experiences, things they'd been too afraid to say until now. Annabelle didn't speak to her. She walked out quietly, head high, smile brittle. A few others followed her, but more stayed behind. Later that evening, my mom opened her journal and slipped something inside. Eleanor's first note, the one that said, "She's not done, and neither am I." Then she looked at me and asked, "Do you want to hear the letter I gave you yesterday?" I nodded. She unfolded it. It read, "If I ever forget what I've been through, remind me. If I ever doubt myself, believe for me. If I ever go silent again, speak louder. And never let anyone convince you that kindness must come quietly." She folded it again, placed it back in my hand, and smiled. That night, we sat together at the kitchen table. No tears, no tension, just peace. Eleanor's fire had found a new keeper, and this time, the flame wasn't going out.